up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, joined as always by Lauren Khalil. Lauren, what's up?
Not much, guys. I'm wondering if it was hotter here today than it was there. What was the temperature?
It was in the 90s, high 80s, low 90s.
Oh, I thought it stayed like 70 and sunny all year round.
No, that's 87 here.
That's more down near me. For Sean's warmer. Today it was 70 here.
Okay. It was like 85 degrees here today.
All right, so it's about tied.
I know. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
And
Tied
featuring Tommy Marquez. Tommy, how you doing?
I'm good. I am feeling the effects of multiple training days in a row after, some extended dad hours.
Dad life will change that training schedule right up on you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's jumping right in with some thrusters.
Why would you pick thrusters to start?
Do you think I picked that?
No. Tommy had been deadlifting and wall balling and rowing. That would have been the workout. Yeah. Maybe a little running.
I'm built like an orangutan on stilts. Why would I do thrusters?
I had to know.
A lot of ROM.
Yeah. A lot of ROM.
Well, we got a lot to talk about today. Got a jam-packed show. We're going to recap the weekend that was, the Super Semis weekend that was, with 4 in-person qualifying competitions. We'll take a quick look ahead to next week because we have one more in-person qualifying event, and then we have the last chance qualifier. We got a little more details about that. World Fitness Project has some more news as well that we want to talk about, and we're going to be hearing from one Anikha Greer as she has finally, I don't want to jinx it, but has qualified for the games, has her ticket.
She's registered too, Sean. If you go to the games website, she's on the leaderboard. So
perfect. All right. So we'll be hearing from her later on in the show. But before we get into it here, we want to thank our sponsor for today, and that is Thirdzy and their rest and recovery collagen. Thirdzy is a fantastic product if you're looking to not only up your sleep game, but also improve your recovery while you sleep. It does not have any melatonin in it because they don't want it to be habit forming. It has really good stuff in it, like GABA, L-theanine, magnesium. That stuff helps you calm your central nervous system so you can get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. And look, there's a recent study and you can find it on the National Library of Medicine website. That's pmc.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov.
That's how you know it's good.
Yeah. Ingestion of a whey plus collagen protein blend increases myofibrillar and muscular connective protein synthesis rates. Now, you know that's a good study because it's full of a bunch of words. I don't know what they mean. All right. But science-backed. Thirdzy works, man. I love it. It is part of my nightly routine. Helps me, someone who sucks at sleeping, helps me sleep a lot better, stay asleep a lot longer, and get the most out of the sleep. Tommy, you're in the middle of dad life right now. Your sleep is compressed. You got to get the most you can out of it. So if you want to get on board the Thirdzy train, and we highly recommend that you do, go to thirdzy.com. That's thirdzy.com. Use our code. You got to use the code again. They've changed it again. So use the code TEF. That's the code. You'll save 20% and you will sleep and you will recover better. So thirdzy.com and the code is TEF.
And do a little Sean Woodland hack and add a little bit of coconut water to that Thirdzy.
Go crazy.
Yeah,
you.
Get you real loose in the hips.
Yeah, a little carbs with the Thirdzy before bed.
That has got to be a Marson Sawyersism right there.
It absolutely is.
Oh man, that's something that he would just throw out there. Yeah, I'm just mobilized. Yeah, it gets you a little loose in the hips.
Yeah, with the smile, you just did a great impression.
Yeah, that was Marson. I'm having a second cup of coffee. Gets you loose in the hips. It's like, what does that mean? But somehow in his brain, that connection was made.
One of my biggest regrets in life is that I had a note in my iPhone, in my notes app, that was tied to our old CrossFit email that had my running list of Marstonisms that I was going to turn into a coffee table book, and I can't access it now.
Oh, God.
When we lost access to our CrossFit emails, I can't get that note back. And it was, there were some winners in there.
That'd make a great coffee table book right there. Dispatch. I always wanted to call it Dispatches from Planet Mars and just have him on the front just saying random stuff. All right. Well, let's get to what we want to talk about, because this last weekend was extremely busy. We had not one, not two, not three, but 4 in-person qualifying events around the world. We had the Syndicate Crown in North America. We had the Rebel Renegade Games in South Africa. We had the Far East Throwdown in South Korea, and then we had the Torium Pro in Australia. So let's just quickly go through these Far East Throwdown. So Sung Young Choi had already qualified. So she won. And Mariana Meza, who finished second, gets the qualifying spot. So for those of you who have been through the whole sanctional season, this will sound very familiar to you as we go through this.
Yep. Mariana hailing from the Far East country of Mexico.
Yes. I guess if you went the long way around.
If you tilt
big time change for her.
Yeah.
If you tilt the Earth on its axis horizontally, then yeah.
Yeah. But so that was one that obviously wasn't regionally locked.
No. Yeah.
So congratulations to her. And then Morteza Setigat is the qualifier for the man. He'll go to the CrossFit Games on the men's side. Then
he's come close quite a few times.
Yeah.
Finally got it.
Yeah, didn't he compete in the old Meridian Regional a couple of times?
I want to say possibly, but yeah, he's been. I mean, he was Asia Invitational, last chance qualifier. If you go basically at the semifinal or regional level, he has finished inside the top 5 multiple times in a row, and has just missed out. And it's tough. And I believe he might have qualified one year and not been able to get a visa, if I remember correctly. So, because I believe his home country is Iran. So that's, yeah.
Well, hopefully things work out for him this time around. All right, so 1 qualifier each from the Far East Throwdown, and then the Rebel Renegade Games out of South Africa, they had 1 qualifier each. Christina Lividatakis is going to be the qualifier on the women's side. We talked about this last week, thought maybe Sarah Sigmund's daughter was going to be making a return to the CrossFit Games. That is not to be. So, yeah, I thought maybe that would happen, but it did not. So congratulations to Christine Lividatakis. And then on the men's side, it's Toby Buckland, who's going to be making I'm guessing this is probably his debut at the CrossFit Games. That is not a name that I have heard before. Now, granted, you got to go back to 2019 when they qualified 400 people. I don't know if he was in that group, but.
No, he wasn't.
Okay, so congratulations to Toby Buckland on making his first appearance. And then we go to the Syndicate Crown. Brooke Wells, congratulations to her coming back from that mishap in the online qualifier where she got docked all those, and rightfully so, I should say, docked all those reps on the burpees. And then Lexi Neely also is going to qualify. And then on the men's side, you got Ty Jenkins and good old Captain Jack Rosema are going to be going to the CrossFit Games.
Captain Jack, I love
Captain
that.
Jack.
I like that too.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a resume too. That guy I think he went to Ohio State, wrestler, helped him win a national title, JAG in the Army. That guy's got some bona fides.
Yep.
And then on the Torian Pro side, and this is what I really want to spend the most time with. So let's start on the men's side. So Ricky Garrard and Jay Crouch finished 1st and 2nd respectively. Now, Guy Mayeros finished in 3rd. Now, there are a lot of people wondering why Guy did not get that ticket. And the reason is because Guy did not finish high enough in the Worldwide Open.
Yeah, he may not have even signed up.
Yeah, he just, right. So he can still do these competitions, but he is not eligible to go to the game. So that's why the qualifying spot skips him and then drops down to Peter Ellis in 4th and Isaac Newman in 5th. And we, again, talked about this last week, that if you could wind up in the top 4, top 5 on the men's side, you had a really good shot. And here we have Peter Ellis and Isaac Newman, who are the guys that are going to earn that ticket. And then on the women's side, Tia Toomey.
Drum roll, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And Maddie Sturt, right? They're the top 2. Both of them had already qualified. So
by a wide margin.
Yes. So Emily DeRoy in 3rd got the 2nd ticket because Tia had not qualified, right? So here, you look at what Tia Toomey did in that competition. And she won 5 events out of 6. Why would she not go to Albany and compete at the CrossFit Games? Give me a reason why she shouldn't do this.
I don't think it's a matter of she shouldn't do it, but I think it's a matter of like a lot of things, in the sense of, does she want to add another competition to compete in just a month after the championship for High Rocks? Is she going to compete in Rogue? And I know that that's, well off from the CrossFit Games, but I guess there's no real reason why she shouldn't, unless she ends High Rocks and isn't healthy and needs downtime or family time, or I don't know. Now I don't have a good answer.
There's not. I don't think there is one. Tommy, you want to take a swing?
Yeah, it's
you go up to bat now.
I'm coming up to bat like Larry Walker when he faced Randy Johnson in the All-Star game, helmet backwards,
yeah.
batting the opposite side of the plate. Yeah. I guess it really comes down to energy and resource management. And that's just like, does she want to take the time to do the full games run up? Like with focusing on High Rocks, there's more High Rocks races on the calendar after Worlds. If that's something that she has in like her plan for the calendar, or even if she plans on doing Rogue, how does the games fit into that? Now, knowing how Tia is as a competitor and her internal drive to want to compete, I'd be very surprised if she didn't, right? Especially because the way the game's prize purse this year is heavily loaded towards the top position, right? And so it's 288,000, give or take a few, Burger King bucks, and then it drops down to what, 50, like in the 50s, 57, 58,000 for second place. And for Tia, looking around, you look at the rest of the games field right now, and you're like, is there any of these women that I think can legitimately beat me?
No.
And I think that's the question.
Yeah.
No, there's not.
I don't think it's a question.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty resounding no. And that's not to like take away from the accomplishments of my son. Just walked by with the cutest face on.
He's walking now?
He just walked. No,
okay.
He's being walked for. Right. Crawling, but he's crawling. But
he's mobile.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's mobile. So I got distracted there for a second by cuteness, but it's just like that. Like the accomplishments of the other women are fantastic, but none of them have been able to even hold a candle to Tia in the last 7 years. So it's.
But how does a condensed?
It doesn't matter. Let me just jump in. A couple years ago, Tia Toomey was what, 5-6 months postpartum, and nearly won the Rogue Invitational.
I know.
And the woman who beat her isn't even in the field this year. Okay, so why do we think that coming off a High Rocks race and training for High Rocks is going to somehow affect her ability to go and mop the floor with the competition in Albany?
We don't, but I'm trying to create good dialogue.
Yeah, I don't think that. I appreciate your effort, but if I'm her, I'm booking my ticket right now to Albany, and I'm like, I'm going to go win this thing, and I'm going to go bank that check.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Okay, but what happens if she shows up at the games and doesn't win? What does that change her legacy or resume?
No, it doesn't, because you can then it doesn't to me at all. It doesn't, because she's not. You could make the excuse, and I know she's not going to make excuses, but you could say, oh, then maybe she wasn't training for it. But there's no one in that field that has even come close to her in anything, and the only woman who has, like I said, is Laura Horvath, and she's not competing. And those women couldn't even beat her at Rogue when she was 5 months postpartum.
And she pretty much has like it sounds weird. Like she pretty much has a baked in excuse too, right? Like it hasn't been her focus. She still like mopped the floor of the Torium Pro. She looked good on all the movements. Mm-hmm. Like her history, like her history of skill and strength of the barbell, even though she hasn't been training, hasn't just gone away. She's still exercising. You're asking her to, and this, depending on what she would make for the appearance at the games too, you're asking her to turn down, a third to, at least $350,000 to go compete for 3 days.
Right. I think to me, this is like, I hope that those travel plans are made, because that's there's obviously nothing is guaranteed in this life. And that's why they play the game. But there are very few things in sports that are as close to a sure thing as Tia Toomey showing up at a competition and winning.
And yeah, that's true. And it's honestly the most difficult part about the entire process of going to the games to win and cash another check would be getting a decent flight to Albany.
That's going to be the toughest thing for her, is like figuring out from Australia or wherever she's coming. Like, well, by that point it'll be Tennessee.
Yeah.
So that's not that hard. But yeah, I cannot think of a reason as to why she should not do this. Because go to something, just think back to the semifinals and the competitions we have seen so far. Have we seen anybody at any of those competitions that has dominated like she did? No.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, like, the only reason why she wouldn't do it if she's like contractually obligated elsewhere. But it's hard to even say if that's the case or not, you know, but.
Well, let's just say in the event that she doesn't go, Georgia Pryor would be the next woman up to get that ticket.
Just in case.
Just in case Tia decides not to go. But I don't see how she doesn't do this.
And this is a scenario that when we talked about the preview last year, I was like, honestly, there's athletes like Gemma Hawk and Georgia Pryor that have just constantly find themselves on the bubble out of this region. And now they're here, and you hope that there's proper communication between everybody to let them know, like, hey, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, putting Michael Jordan, in front of a basketball hoop against a sixth grader and say, if you beat him, you win $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Jordan's going to back that kid in so hard and just turn around and dunk it right in his face. Like, no mercy. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen. And
Charles Barkley is standing there trash talking him as if he's got the other side of the bet. And if you know anything about Jordan, he loves to gamble. So, it's all right. Yeah, I don't know. It's the more and more I think about it, the more and more I talk myself into this being inevitable, because it seemed like there was questions around it. And there was even like a ton of ambiguity around the messaging after the Torian Pro and, this being the farewell. Like, I guess maybe you could argue that, like, hey, if you want the last time she steps on the competition floor in a CrossFit sanctioned event being at home in Australia, that could maybe be something. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
And she's got think that, like, when she's ready to retire, that she will be the one to announce it after she wins. Like, you're right, Tommy. There's been all this ambiguity.
You're talking to someone
what I'm saying is that, there's been so much question and like leaving the door open and not giving a definitive answer. I feel like with Tia, when she's ready, she'll know, and it'll just I
think that she is one of those. Let me tell you. Let me just say this. I don't think she's someone who's going to do it in the middle of the season, right? I think she's like, I'm going. I got to win this thing. It is more likely that she would do it towards the beginning. I just think she is one of those rare people that is just
right
so
till the wheels come off.
Friggin' driven. Like you have to hide their helmets. Remember, Tommy, in football, you'd talk about that guy. You got to hide that guy's helmet, or he's going to go out on the field no matter what. And I think as long as she thinks that she can be competitive, and there's no reason to think that, given what we just saw, that she can't, that she is going to continue to do this, and she can still do high rocks.
But that's what I mean. Like, for example, if at the CrossFit Games this coming year she ends up competing and she noticeably sees that margin of first and second narrowing, don't you think that then she'll be like, okay, I'm going to leave on this high note because the field is gaining on me? Or do you think that would add fuel to the fire and make her say, nah, I'm going to separate this gap again? Almost like what happened when Boz programmed the crossovers and the hat trick and all of those things.
Yeah. I mean, one for one, I think if she was ultimately going to walk away and was dead set on it, we would have known by now. Because I think announcing it ahead of time would have made that weekend at Torium Pro that much more special with that messaging, right? Like you could do the full farewell tour kind of action, which she deserves.
Yeah.
And I think she is too good right now to really know definitively, right? It's not like she's like pushing. It's hard. You have to reframe this because in this sport, it's a little bit different. It's not like she's pushing. Sam Briggs was 40 when she made the games. It's not like she's pushing 40 and
she's redefining what it means to be fit as you age.
Oh.
And she's still carving out new paths for her. So that's why I'm like, even if there was like an inkling of it, which I'm sure I know there has been an inkling of it on her end. She came off the floor when Sean announced it last time and was like, she was under the arena in the back being like, I'm done. Yeah. And Shane was reiterating the same thing. So it's like, there's too much fire still in her belly. And I think she's too good. And there's still too much opportunity to win, earn, continue to build your legacy to have that clear of a mind around it.
Yeah.
I think.
I think you bring up a good point, Lauren. Like if she were to go to the games and it's not the dominant performance, but she still wins, maybe that gives her a second thought. And say, maybe now is time. But God, I do think she'd be like, oh no, hell no. I'm going, like, I'm trying to, like, that's because that's the kind of person and the kind of competitor that she is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm expecting to see her on the floor in Albany, just wrecking shop.
I would almost say it has less to do with the end result and more the process at that point. Like the kind of light bulb moment for her basically wanting to walk away to me and then you've heard this from other athletes where the process and the like the connective tissue around competing and being in the games isn't enjoyable anymore. It's like you're not like ramping up for an event or getting ready under the stadium isn't giving you that same juice. And it's less about the result for her because really, like, she's done everything you can in the sport.
Yeah,
right.
Nothing to prove.
And she has cemented her legacy at the top. So really, it becomes about the process in between and like how much you're gathering enjoyment from that as it ultimately leads to what your goal is. If she's sitting around there like, ugh, this is really just a drag. Like even getting geared up or warmed up and cooled down and the whole process, waking up, packing food, all that stuff. That's to me more of an indicator than like what her name on the leaderboard says, I think.
I think that's a really good point. And then the last thing I'll say too is that family will also, when you start missing out on things and you start realizing that you're not getting these years back, and there's priorities that you have now about being with your kids and being with your husband and being around your loved ones, like that can also push someone to say, yeah, this just isn't worth it for me anymore.
Yeah. And that's not just for competing, right? Like Sean, you're experiencing that now. I'm starting to go through that as well. And it's just for everything. It reshuffles the deck entirely.
Yeah. But. Okay. Well, like, I could be wrong, but I think Tia's going to show up. All right. Last thing we want to talk about the weekend is I got a couple messages. I know you guys about the stream at Syndicate Crown. Yes. Okay, so this is how I kind of want to handle this. For me, it's just about like I always view this stuff as, regardless of who's doing it and regardless of what's all that, like what we are watching or is what the way the sport is being presented, is that conducive to growing it, getting in front of more people, building the fan base, getting a network involved that wants to put it on, and that's how I sort of view everything in this space right now. And I'll give you an example of an event that the three of us were involved in. And this was last year, and it was at the Masters Championship. We did that in Birmingham, right? Mm-hmm. That was a real pared down, real bare bones stream, right? We enjoyed doing it. I had a great time. I think the athletes appreciated it. Their loved ones appreciated it. But when you look at it through that lens that I just mentioned, that production was not good enough to get that sport beyond the diehards who wanted to watch it. And it was fine for what we were trying to accomplish. Like I said, I enjoyed it, but we didn't have what we needed. Like, it was not presented in a way that would be conducive to growing it, right? It just wasn't. But and that's okay.
100%.
And I think the rough edges of that were even smoothed over a little bit by the virtue of the fact of what had been presented as the age group CrossFit Games in the previous year, with the singular locked off cam and everything like that. So I think people's
we were lucky for that.
Yeah, we had happiness is measured by expectations. So we that over delivered. So that's
we were an upgrade from one single shot with no audio.
Yeah, exactly.
Great job, guys.
Yeah, and I mean, and you should have seen us, Sarah. I mean, there were times like this. These poor guys who were like switching the 2 cameras that we would have per floor. Like, we would have to tell them. Chase is in the booth, like, go to that side, or
that's
go
what Tommy was doing.
Like, you turn around and you give it was baling wire and chewing gum, So
that. And the final day we cut our cameras, our own cameras. We cut our own cameras.
Yeah, we had a couple times we had the switcher right there that we were just, that ain't going to get you where you need to be, right?
Yeah,
and that's really. 2 things can be true at the same time. So I look at the Syndicate Crown stream, and you can appreciate the fact that a group of people did something for free. Got on planes, traveled to Knoxville, Tennessee, set something up for free, and allowed a viewing audience to watch a competition that they weren't going to be able to see any other way. All right. So you can appreciate that. And I think a lot of people probably
do. We know that they did it for free?
Yeah, they did it for free.
Oh, okay.
And then on the other hand, you can say, yeah, that was great, but that is not the way that I think the sport needs to be presented in order to grow. Right. I can't watch iPhones and shaky cameras and pre-shows with no video. Like, and it doesn't matter what the sport is. I can't do it. So to me, like, that the quality of that stream, well, like, I think a lot of people appreciated the fact that it was free and you could watch it. That is not where I think we need to be from a production standpoint to grow the sport.
Sure. And you couple that with, like, I use this term loosely, like the commentary being focused on the athletes and the competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're like what is it? I'm trying to think how Roth used to always put it. Like, the pictures have to match the action. The commentary have to match the pictures. Everybody has to be on the same page about that. And when there's disjoint amongst that, it doesn't make the viewing experience watchable for everyone or the intended audience, which I think in sport, professional, use the term professional loosely too, but like in trying to grow the sport at a high level, you have to try and make it more broadly appealing from a coverage standpoint, if that makes sense, right?
I agree with that. Because
you're getting the full swath of people coming in to watch their loved ones, families, friends, athletes, people from their gym, someone that inspires them, that whole thing, and tell those stories accordingly.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I think that there's also, we're in this weird time of when specifically for CrossFit, it seems like we're going away more from those broadcast versus what a live stream is. And the live stream is basically taking what people are used to seeing and hearing on podcasts and putting it as a sports coverage event. And while I think that there's a time and a place for that, I think it is a bit of a disservice to the community to have that with some of the same, I'll say, profanity and crudeness among the commentary when you're expecting children and young ones and your everyday listener to be trying to watch that and it not being okay for kids or, just your everyday sports fan to listen to, from making fun of a 17-year-old athlete's voice who's competing over the weekend to just making fun of athletes in general. I think that there needs to be there's a time and a place for if people want to do that on their podcasts. I think that that's their right. But when it's as the live stream to consume sports coverage that's qualifying athletes to the games, to me, that's where the professionalism needs to be taken seriously. And unfortunately, I just don't think that it was this weekend.
Well, I think go ahead, Tommy.
I'll say this problem isn't new either, right? Like, we experienced a lot of this in 2019 when it became the Wild West and the sanctionals era, right? Like, anytime there's a big void left in the space by, the controlling, the kind of controlling entity, this like mad dash to fill the vacuum doesn't always lead to the best results. Like there was, I mean, even go back to the first Open announcement, right? And that was how CrossFit opened the season. And everybody was like, what the hell? Like, what is this? And people were,
that was, you mean in 2019
like
when they,
2019.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the first Open announcement came through and everybody's like, this is not what at all we expected. Right. And suddenly like there was this huge shift and reframing of what was actually going to, be sports coverage from there on out, because, everybody was used to the higher level production quality, and at least the technical bells and whistles that CrossFit was providing as part of that sport. And, they, after 2020, they tried to kind of reel that back in. And, unfortunately, especially on the sports side, budgets, controlling power, decision making, and was negatively affected by a lot of the political underhandedness that was going on behind the scenes that most people will never know about, and a lot of like the just mismanagement. And now as a result, you see the CrossFit pulling back again from the sport, in a way that I think is kind of inviting that same kind of chaos again. And that's just, if you're like trying to be like, hey, CBS, hey, ESPN, come back to us. And they're like, that's what you used to qualify people from the games. Like that, those are the audio clips and sound bites and stuff like that. They're going to going around. Like, I don't know if that's going to be something that leaves a lasting positive impact if you're trying to grow the sport, Yeah.
I mean, I think it serves a purpose. Like that kind of production will get the diehards in. And look, some people loved it and that's fine. Like if that's your thing, great. Some people didn't, that's fine too. Whatever. Again, I'm more concerned about, and what you just said, Tommy, can you take that and go to someone that helps you get outside the bubble, right? Just being online on YouTube is great, but that's not really getting you outside the bubble. I think to really make an impact and to get people into affiliates and to get more fans, you've got to be on some sort of platform, be it a Netflix or a Hulu or an Amazon or ESPN or CBS Sports Network, where people who don't know about this have a chance to see it and then maybe find their way into a gym. That's what I want to happen. And this production level, same thing with Wadapalooza, same thing with what we did at the Masters CrossFit Games last year. That's not going to get you there. And there just isn't the money in the space right now to do it. And that's what's concerning to me.
It also makes me wonder, because last year for the entire season, and again, I know that CrossFit had a bigger hand in these semifinals, but all of their live streams were posted on the CrossFit Games YouTube channel, which has over 1 million followers. So even just like looking at day one of Syndicate last year, 647,000 views. This year, and again, not apples to apples, but just somewhat of a comparison, the day, I think it was, no, that was supposed
day
to
one.
be day one was 94,000 views. So it's to me, it's just an interesting decision of, I get that CrossFit HQ didn't want to invest and flip the bill on the semifinals, but why wouldn't you still want your sport shown on the main YouTube channel to get more people to consume content?
I don't get that at all, because what they used to do is they used to put, even on just if you went to the game site, they had like a tabbed thing where you could say, here's this stream, here's that stream, here's that stream.
Yeah.
And you could watch all of it. Yeah. I don't understand. I haven't understood their approach to YouTube for a long time. Like you said, you have why would you not put that on there? Like they should have done that for every stream this past weekend.
Even when, so I'll say this. I don't think they have the manpower and the know-how in their current internal infrastructure to do that, to execute on that. Two, even when they did, they still blatantly and openly refused to do that. How many, like we watched, for the, how many edited pieces and how much content just die on the vine that they never posted because they purposefully and intentfully didn't want to post it. Yeah. It was like they were
Isn't it a different team now?
Yeah.
It is.
And that was Emily O'Hearn and Jonathan Haynes right there. Like I can they're not there anymore, and there were the two people who were responsible for that. So,
I mean,
but damage done.
50 plus, 60 plus pieces of high quality content delivered to them that they were just sitting on that they refused to post.
Yeah.
Video with promos. I mean, the type of round the clock, high quality sports coverage that would kind of get the wheels churning again. And
they buried the Miles to Madison stuff. You'd go to the page and you'd have to scroll down to find it. That was the highest quality content they were putting out at that point.
Borderline malicious intent, with how they were approaching it to just sabotage other people, not for the better, overall sake of the entire sport and betterment of the sport, which is frustrating. And that's part of the problem, right? When you start to poison the well a little bit and then you're suddenly gone, the well doesn't magically become clean for the next person. Right? You still have to do all this work to unscrew it. And if you don't have the people that are capable of doing that, it just sits there festering. And I think not necessarily, even with some of the new people that come, I don't think it's a fault of theirs that they've been basically handed a crap sandwich and they're like, all right, make this a meal. You're like, but at some level, it's it's not working. It's not working.
Yeah. I'm really surprised though. They just didn't put it all in one place for people and last, I don't know. But anyway,
I mean, they started doing that for sanctionals too. If you could provide a stream key and start, sending that over, CrossFit would host it on their page. I even if it's say it's hosted on another outlet's YouTube, you can still put an embed it onto the website and actually add value to your event partners, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make sense to add hey, to your event partners? If I don't know.
All right.
It's crazy.
Anything more we want to mention about that before we move on to World Fitness Project?
I mean, I hope that in the very least the games are better.
Yeah. Yes. I think they will. They will. But again, I want the games. I hope to God they get some sort of broadcast deal. YouTube is great. YouTube's fine. And then what they do with that content, if they put that out on social media and maybe it finds people, but I want to get outside the bubble and ESPN. I don't think there's it's no coincidence that the best growth years for CrossFit happened when they got the games on national TV consistently. I know there were other factors in there, but I think that was a big one for people to see it and find their way into affiliates.
It was a huge factor. They were hitting on all levels, right? It was broadcast production. It was a bevy of free content that was digestible around the calendar year that gave people touch points for the athletes, for the gyms that were training them, to the other stories in the sport through the open that were more everyday type stories. You had, I would say Netflix style coverage with Mars and Heber and them putting out Road to the Games and all that stuff. And it was a multitude of things. And then at the highest level, you could point to ESPN, and that is the external legitimacy factor when you have one of those networks attached. That if someone's like, oh, what's this new sport? Oh, they're on ESPN. Oh, they're on CBS. That's okay, well, that now you have a bigger player's reputation behind you a little bit. And it didn't just happen overnight, right? I feel like a broken record here because we had to make sure that the media, at least on the game side at certain regionals, was broadcast caliber well before it was on ESPN.
Yes.
We had to build towards stuff. We had to get reps in, even though we had to make sure that the people getting involved could produce something like the update show or some of our live regionals coverage to where it wasn't this huge jump into, all right, if someone goes to sees our stuff on ESPN and they turn back and look at, oh, what's the history of the sport from the previous year? It's not this jarring thing of oh, this was shot on a potato,
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, and we can move on. Just one more thing. I remember in 2012 when they were pitching this to ESPN, they went back and they took, was it 2012 or maybe it was 2011? No, because 2011 they did the post shows. So when they were pitching the post show idea to ESPN in 2011, because they weren't live that year. They did post-produced shows that showed up, and I remember being so jazzed that CrossFit was going to be on ESPN. They took footage that they had shot from the NorCal regional, packaged it in a way that they could like, they added graphics, they added all kinds of stuff to make it look broadcast ready. They added like Rory and Miranda did sort of ad hoc play-by-play and color on top of it, and took that professionally like looking product to ESPN and said, look, this is what we think it could look like. And based on that, ESPN said, oh, that's great. Let's do I think we can do some post shows during this time of the year. Right. So that, to your point, Tommy, like they had to make sure that it looked good before they even got to that step of being on national television.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. World Fitness Project. So World Fitness Project made an announcement. Let me make sure I have this up here so I can share my screen there. They continue to kind of roll some things out. And it's the new one is the Rec League is what they're calling it. It's more than just a workout. It's an opportunity for your gym community to come together more regularly throughout the year. All right. Sounds great. What is that? Rec League is a quarterly fitness competition designed to test different domains of fitness through a single unique workout. Participants support and hold each other accountable with a like-minded goal while also celebrating health, progress, and the shared pursuit of fitness. Open to individual men, individual women, duo men and women, trio men, trio women. Huh, pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And so Rec League 1 registration begins in a couple weeks, June 15th, and then the submission window is June 27th and July 14th. So this is like their version of the Open, but spread out over the entire year with just 4 workouts.
It honestly kind of feels more like the team series or like the like that kind of like those kind of events. Because I don't know if necessarily like the Open technically points towards something, right? Like it points to a next level. This seems like its own like individually baked in annual competition, if you will. So,
right, because it doesn't lead to anything. Like
it's at least not that I'm not that I'm aware.
Can't
so
you
it's
win
like,
prizes if you're like if you finish in the top and you got to submit a video and all that stuff like you would in any normal online competition? Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. So that, which is, to me, it was kind of like what the team series was, and, but
which was a road to nowhere, but it was really just designed
which is fun,
compete with the grid, but it was still a fun thing to do. Yeah. You and I did it together one year.
We did.
Kara Hipskind and who was our fourth? I can't remember, but that was fun. We had a good time.
Carla Ferguson.
That's it. Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. But anyway, we'll be keeping an eye on that to see what that entails. So we got to get to Anikha Greer here because we're going way long on this stuff. So this is going to be an extended show, but okay, let's get to our interview with Anikha because she's been a hell of a story if you guys, and I know you have been paying attention to what she's gone through, all just the close calls and near misses and mishaps that she's had to keeping her from the games, and she is finally qualified. She is on the leaderboard. So we wanted to talk to her about her experiences in the past and how that either did not or did motivate her to keep going, to finally qualify the games, how her season's been going, what her training's been like, and what she expects from her appearance at the CrossFit Games. So without further ado, here is Anikha Greer.
Anikha, thanks so much for joining us today. First question, how's the playlist build going? Because I know we were talking off air just now that Sean Woodland is a huge fan of your rock and roll and metal playlist.
Yes, same playlist as however many years ago, the first time we did that podcast, and I shared my Matty Rogers inspired metal playlist, Drop Kick Your Cat Off a Bridge. It's continued to grow, but it is actually funny because the first songs on the playlist are obviously the first ones I added. So every time I go to it, I get like a little bit of nostalgia because you see like the songs you've added throughout the years and stuff. But no, Sean likes to remind me every time I see him that he still likes it and plays it at the gym.
He loves that playlist, by the way. It's like guaranteed he's going to listen to that a few times weekly for sure. A good awesome taste in music.
You're both getting hyped up to the same genre.
Yeah, I know. Me and Sean Woodland, just, one and the same.
Yep. Same. Exactly. I love it. But as I just mentioned, you just registered for your first CrossFit Games. I want to backtrack a little bit because I believe you got the news in Indianapolis that your scores were approved. And correct me if I'm wrong, was that during one of the briefings?
Yeah. It was very funny.
Yeah, I was standing on the floor and I looked over and kind of someone shoulder tapped me and I could see that you were in a very emotional state. And I was fingers crossed that it was a good emotional state. But kind of talk us through that moment.
Yeah, it was funny actually. This was the second day of competition. The bike sled workout had just finished. And I was pretty sick during WFP. I had like a flu. So it was like nothing crazy. Like my stomach was fine. I was keeping food down, but just like fever, head cold, whatever, just feeling a little uncomfortable. And that bike sled workout put me over the edge. And I like really pushed that. And it was like, it had been like an hour and I was still so violently nauseous. Like I have never been, and I refused to throw up. Like I won't do it. It might've been better if I just had, but like, anyways, I was so nauseous and the athlete briefing is happening. Manny's feeding me like clementine pieces because it's the only thing that I can like eat. No, I felt like a toddler. It was hilarious. And so I don't want to sit in the bleachers because I'm scared that I'm going to get another wave of nausea and like throw up on somebody in the middle of the briefing. So we're standing off to the side next to like a garbage can and I'm like holding on to the railing of the stairs. I felt so dramatic, but I was hurting. Anyways, we're sitting there and I had just talked to Kiefer in the athletes warm up and he was saying, hey, by the way, Kyra's starting to get emails with like scores being validated. You should check yours. And the service is not great inside that building. In the athlete warm up, I had no service. I couldn't get it to load. And so I was like, well, sure hope I got them. Like, you kind of are like expecting something to be there, but you can't see it. It like added to the stress. I hadn't really been stressed about it until then. And then anyways, I guess the service kind of popped up while I was over there. And I was standing with D, one of my friends from Miami who came, and Manny anyways. And I'm like, oh my God, my CrossFit Games app opened and I just see like validated all the way 1 through 5. And I was like, oh, like just relief. All the nausea went away for a minute. So that was really cool. Cause I mean, like I wasn't terribly worried about the videos. We had judges look through my videos. They were very harsh and critical and like, we're not biased at all. And they were like, I don't think she has anything to worry about. But I mean, I don't think anybody would have guessed they would have pinned people on the step ups last year. You never really know. And with my history in online qualifiers, I am not one to, relax. So, but even with that, I felt fairly calm. So it wasn't like this huge anxiety lifted, but it was nice because it felt like for real. Cause everybody's been like, you're going to the games. And I'm like, yup, wait a couple, like give me like a week, like, yes, I agree. I do think I am, but I don't have the invite yet. So no, it was nice. It gave me a brief reprieve from feeling like I was going to throw up my clementines.
I mean, this has been almost a decade of getting so close to reaching or accomplishing this dream of going to the games. If people haven't read the article that Emily Beers did about you on Barbend, I advise you to do that. It goes through Anika's whole history on getting up to this moment. But I'll never forget last year, I think it was after Syndicate, when you once again almost qualified and we were walking on the street and you were openly emotional, as you have been after every time you've been so close. And I'm just curious, like, what has the roller coaster of wanting to quit, maybe wanting to give up, been like? But is there a voice, or what is that thing that keeps you pursuing after this goal to get to this moment?
That's a great question. I feel like it's a little different every year because every year has been crappy for its own reason. So there's been like a different reason for me to think that, that's not how it's meant to end every year. And I mean, this past year was definitely, last year, I guess, was the year that I felt like quitting the most for sure, because I had put so much internal pressure on that I didn't even realize until I got to semis last year, honestly, because I was so fit and so excited and like ready. I didn't feel anxious. I was just excited to go like do it. And I didn't realize until the first event that I had this like internal pressure basically saying, if you don't do it this year, you never will. Like, this is it. You have to qualify this year. And like, whether that be because of, things I was telling myself, things I had seen other people say, but it was basically like, you've missed it enough. You're very fit. You're healthy. Last year, you weren't healthy. You had just moved countries. Like, this is the year to do it. If you don't do it this year, you never will, because this is like the best opportunity you've been given. And because of that, it's like incredibly hard to perform well when you're holding a gun to your own head. Like it was just impossible. So then I obviously, I bombed the first workout and I climbed my way back. And then I had an unfortunate last event, but like, it's just even mentally, I remember doing an interview with you after I think the second event when I had like whatever top 3, won my heat, started to climb back up. And I had literally said, I think there's something not right with my head and I'm going to have to look at it after this comp. And I was already saying that on the second event. Like I had already felt like I wasn't mentally fit enough to be there. So no matter what I had, no matter how much I climbed back that weekend, the narrative in my head was still that like, I don't even think I deserve to be there if I can't get my head right. If I bombed the first workout, like I need to be able to, I'd already kind of talked myself out of climbing my way back up, even if my body was doing it for me kind of thing. So
yeah,
last year was definitely the toughest. It took me the longest to get back into training. I took the most time off I kind of have. And then obviously with everything that happened at the games, that started a whole new kind of questioning of what are you really going to do? Because do you want to support this? That started a whole new kind of line of questioning. But at the same time, the pressure with all of those things that happened, the pressure of like it just being because I failed changed and it turned into a like, well, what is this whole organization turning into? But I had some good conversations with Brent after semis last year that, I mean, he's so phenomenal. He's been so great to me my whole career. He fought so hard for me when my scores didn't get submitted during quarterfinals that one year. Like he's always been really great. And we had a really good conversation and I told Emily about it as well in the Morning Chalk Up article where he had said, I mean, we had talked about a lot of things. He sent me a book that was great, but there was one thing that stuck out to me. And he had said that somebody had told him when he was going through that similar kind of period of his career that he had to be okay with being the guy who is just trying to be like good at the thing, like good at CrossFit. You have to be okay in yourself being the person who's like striving for something, not the person that has accomplished it. And in the moment, something along those lines, obviously not verbatim, but in the moment, I remember thinking like, that's not me. Like, I'm not okay with just trying to be good at this thing because I know that I'm capable of like qualifying, of being in the top 10, of podiuming eventually. Like I know intrinsically what I'm capable of. So no, I'm not okay with just like fighting to be that. And I kind of like sat with that for a while. The mindset of like how I thought about what I was doing changed. The opinion I had on like what I brought to the table as an athlete, as a person changed a little bit. And then with the sport changing too a bit, having more opportunities to compete with the games not being the exclusive end all be all anymore, it all kind of came together for me to have like a little bit. Can you hear my dogs growling in the background?
It's awesome. We love it. We love it.
They're so
they're
annoying when I talk and not. Hey, you too. Can you guys behave? They're such sisters. Like when I'm talking on the phone and not talking to them, they get so angry at me. It's so
jealous.
We're dog positive podcast, so
yes, they're really passionate about what I'm talking about too. They're like, "Yeah, mom,
you go, girl."
Literally, they're so funny. They're such sisters. But no, with all of that kind of coming together, the new format of the year with so many opportunities to compete. Initially, I was thinking like I'll just put all my focus into the WFP, and then as the games kind of like progressed and more people were still going to compete, and in the games' way they were trying to improve things, I made a difficult decision to also compete in the games. Like it wasn't easy. It wasn't like I was the entire time just like, oh, I'm 100% in for the games. There was a lot of questioning, obviously. But at being so young and with there hopefully being some change, I felt optimistic enough to compete in both. So with having more opportunities, with having a little better mindset, a little healthier brain, self-worth, life outside of CrossFit, like all of those things kind of came together to be a much healthier just ecosystem of Anikca. That helped a lot.
Work with a mindset coach?
Yes. Yeah. Sports psychologist. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, and kind of circling back to a couple of things you said, because obviously you mentioned the internalized pressure, the work and being okay with the person that was just trying to be really good at that. But the belief that like, that if I don't make it this year, I'm I'm not going to ever do it, or the feelings of like inadequacy around something that hasn't even really unfolded yet. I'm always interested to see, like, one, you do circle back to it, what were you able to uncover? Because by all accounts, like last year, you're 21, 22, like anyone, like objectively speaking, you have the woman, like if you go the woman above you on the leaderboard, Ariel Owen's almost a decade older than you, so there's a long runway in this sport. Was there anything like that was able to kind of pull you out of that moment so you can look at things a little bit more objectively?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that internally, I recognize, like, I'll be 22 in 7 days. So
Happy
last
early
year,
birthday.
thanks.
Yeah.
Last year, I was like 21, and there were people saying basically I should retire if I didn't make it last year. And like
An early retirement.
yeah, right. Like that'd be great. Imagine retiring at 20. But so, I mean, and obviously I should never listen to those things and never internalize those things, but like it's difficult not to an extent. But the other thing is, because I've been doing it for so long, because I started when I was 14, 13, it feels like I'm older than I am in a way. It feels like I've been doing this. I actually remember last year on the finish line at Syndicate, when they didn't call my name, Tia came over and gave me a hug. And I remember I told her, I was like, Tia, I feel old. And she laughed at me, obviously, because what a thing to say to somebody who's 10 years older than you. But
Yeah.
I remember just feeling that, like just feeling like age. Like I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like this is awful. This is making me feel old. But so I do internally, the other thing I've been working on a lot this year is legitimately trying to forget about the years I did CrossFit as a teenager, because in my head, those just can't count anymore. Because, the narrative you tell yourself, if I'm telling myself I've been trying for 7 years since I was 14, that just sounds so heavy on yourself. When in reality, these two, like, I can't handle them. They're just bickering right now. But in reality, I mean, I'm 21, I'll be 22. Like, that is so young. It's just because of, how long I've been doing it that it feels like, a mountain on top of you. So I've been trying to forget in a way, like not completely forget, because they taught me a lot of great things, obviously, but compartmentalize the years before, being an individual, because they were very painful years and they were very formative years in my life, but they're not super helpful anymore. They just make me feel heavy and old. So
Yeah.
As much as there was a lot of benefit in those years, they taught me a lot, made me pretty tough. I kind of am like trying not to pile those on top of the like already heavy couple years as an individual.
Yeah. But I mean, to give yourself credit though, like if you can pull something from it, most people, I don't know, I can't say this definitively, but I feel like most people, if you look objectively at your past, you'd be hard pressed to find many people who would have continued and ultimately broken through in the way that you did.
Sure.
So I hope you're able to at least, draw on that a little bit, and, breaking through, I don't know, when you face maybe some trauma or some disappointment, you tend to build something up, the end goal that you come up short on, you tend to build it up in your mind, sometimes beyond what's reasonable. And that weight alone can also be detrimental. Getting the invite to the games, did you feel like that moment matched what maybe you had envisioned in your head, or like that kind of maybe fantasized experience of like finally getting to go to the games?
No, of course not. But also, like, I knew that was going to happen. I had I mean, I think it would have been a lot different qualifying in person. Obviously, online's a little more anticlimactic for sure. It was still emotional and still like, oh my gosh, I finally did it kind of thing. But I knew, and especially with this year, with at least for me, the games having a little less weight, it felt different the whole year anyways. Like it was still my goal, but I had other goals and other things to focus on too, where last year, if I didn't make the games, I was done competing until maybe Rogue in October, and I didn't even do Rogue. So like you were done for a while. Whereas if I didn't make the games through online semis, I had WFP next weekend. I then potentially had Syndicate at the end of the month. Like it wasn't like, and then let's say I didn't even do the game season, I still had something to train for in August with the second WFP event. And I think that really helped at least me as well, having it not just be the end all be all, because you don't have that massive pressure buildup. It's still like very important, but it's a little different when it's not just like you don't perform this one weekend and you're done kind of thing. But even like with that, I knew internally that like when you do it's never as you're no different. Like I'm still the same me. It's not like I wake up and I'm a completely different person and everything's changed. It's like, no, it's more just like vindicating more than anything. Like it's less than I'm like a different person and more just like, all right, you finally did the thing that you knew you could do for many, many years, that other people have said you could do and believed in you for many years too. Like, great, next.
Well, now that you've done that thing, you've reached that goal, what or how do you manage the expectation of what that next goal might be? Whether it's a placement at the games, whether it's, getting better at X. I know that running has been a huge priority for you. Like what are those expectations for the next version of Anikha when it comes to goal setting?
Yeah, I mean, I had this thought too, where I was thinking about like, okay, like this was never the end goal was never to just qualify for the games once. That's never been the goal. It's just been like the first state, you got to get there first, So I knew that it wasn't just going to be like, oh, I made it. Everything else is just, cherry on top. But I think for the games this year, because it is like my first time, it's a different, I mean, you have 30 people instead of 40. I don't know what that's going to mean points wise. It's only 3 days instead of 4. I don't know what that is going to mean events wise. Whereas like I'm an athlete where the more events, the better. More chances I have home runs and can make up for maybe some weaker events, considering I'm like a little bit of a skewed athlete. So I don't have any, as of right now, especially with not knowing much about what the games are going to look like, I don't have any like numerical goals. I mean, like rookie of the year, top 10 are things that sound great, but you can throw those out into the stratosphere, but they don't really mean much until you don't understand how you're actually going to kind of tangibly do that. Yeah. You can also never really control what other people are going to do. Like I have those two things in the back of my head right now, but we'll see how, events come out. I don't have utmost faith in programmers always to program the most well-rounded tests. It depends on, what they deem most important in the sphere of fitness. So it could play out. I've been at comps where the events have been well-rounded and played out nicely for me. And I've been at some where they have just completely not. So like, you never know. So we'll see. So right now I'm more focused on
Yeah.
I feel that in my soul.
Right now, you're more focused on your dogs that are having a wrestling match.
They're like full having like a wrestling match. It's like doggy WWE in my kitchen right now. Like Zoe's pinned, like back legs, bicycle kicking. Like they're crazy. It's been really rainy all week, so they've been cooped up. And if I put them in the bedroom, they'll just yell at me. So I'm like, this is our happy medium.
Yep.
That's what we can do.
Anyways, but yeah, in terms of tangible goals for the games, I don't have anything where I'm like, I want this, because hard to know yet. It's also my first time, but it's more going to be focused on, not getting in my own way, like performing. If you can have a weekend where you can execute every single workout to your best capacity, you're going to have a great weekend. Or at least for me, I know I'm going to have a great weekend. The weekends where I don't have good weekends are the ones where I am not able to express my full capacity on workouts that I should be. Like things like when things outside of, you can have, I've never had a weekend where every single workout has gone perfectly. And it's always the ones where you aren't able to like express your full capacity on every workout because of like when it's your own fault. Like for example, the WFP event that just happened, I had a rough first event, just like mentally, I don't want to say gave up, but I kind of did. I had almost accepted that I was going to come last because I felt terrible, very like out of body, kind of not feeling good. I was starting to get sick, but in a workout that's not my wheelhouse, it gets in my head more. So after the first round, when I was already behind, I was like, all right, well, this is the strongest field of the year. You're going to take last in this event, but you have to finish the workout. You can't withdraw. I almost withdrew during the first event, but I was like, all right, if you're not going to withdraw, you have to finish this workout. So just finish it. And that was kind of my mindset through the whole thing. And that is not something I'm proud of or want to do again. I still somehow wasn't last, barely. But anyways, when things like that happen, and then I was able to kind of build myself back up the whole weekend, and then I was going to be solidly in the top 10 during the final event. I executed that last workout really well for me. And then I ditched the dumbbells like an idiot overhead. I didn't even fail a lunge. They were just so far behind me that I ditch them. Yeah. I've never done that at my home. Like, I don't even ask me where that came from because I have no idea. It was like my brain just shut off. And then I lost it. I went from, it would have been like 7th overall to like 14th. Like, that's what I mean by getting in my own way, where like I have so much physical capacity to express in a lot of things that, like, as long as I can focus on not getting in my own way, I will feel very successful. And typically I am very successful when I'm able to do that. So that's kind of what I've been focused on, you know, in the mental work I'm doing, like in the way I'm thinking about workouts. It's like, start to crossing the line, visualizing, not just the work kind of visualizing. Because I had watched myself do that workout so many times in the corral. You know what I had never seen myself do was set the dumbbells down. Like, just like little things like that seem that are maybe second nature to some people who are more like detail oriented. I actually got reminded of this by my mom at WFP when I used to do show jumping with, you know, horses. I used to get so much crap from my coaches because I would always knock the last rail. And so I would have this beautiful round. It would be awesome. And then it was like, I would not like, it's not like I give up too early or I think I'm done too early, but I ease off the gas pedal because I am like, it's just the last jump. And typically it's the easiest jump. You have the most time to think about it. You just have to get over it and you're done. And it's been great. And then I do something and we knock the last rail and it's like, oh, like you were right there. And I've done that a couple times and it sucks because it's been a thing since I was a kid that like it's always that like little last kind of detail. And like, I've gotten a lot better obviously, but it's frustrating when you know it's like a pattern. So making sure that that doesn't come up again, that I can kind of learn from that and not get in my own way is probably the biggest goal I have for the games right now.
I mean, having somebody like Brent Fikowski, though, as a resource who is super, super detail oriented, I think could play to your advantage in developing that.
Yeah, he is definitely, I think we have different brains.
He has a different brain than most of us, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it'd be nice to tap into that a little bit. But beyond the games, you mentioned WFP. You still finished 14th, which was right up there with the top 3 athletes who didn't have a pro card coming into the year. Sets yourself up pretty nicely as far as like if you want to pursue that and try and get the pro card for the rest of the year. How do you balance and manage the schedule between now the games? What was that? Oh, yeah. We got to know.
If you're watching.
I love it.
Oh my God, I didn't even know she could get up here. Hi, baby.
Her face just perked right.
Like just appeared. Oh my gosh. Sorry, Tommy.
It was so casual. I just like, I was like, oh yeah, we got another joining the conversation.
That was great.
But yeah, I mean, how do you manage to schedule the training? What's going to be your approach? Like I know, like, obviously there's a qualifier and everything like that in between. So what's kind of your plan of attack?
Yeah, I got asked this too of like, is it hard do you feel like you have to prioritize one over the other? This is my assistant coach. And no, I feel like they're spaced out in a way where like, I haven't felt like I've had to prioritize one over the other. The training is the same for both of them. They're both functional fitness racing. I'm bad at the same things in both of them. So like, I still focus on the same things in both of them. The only difficult thing, at least for this coming year, is figuring out when I'm going to take a big break to just do aerobic work and in my endurance work. Because the one thing I didn't do last year, which like now I'm obviously like, oh, I wish I had done. But in the moment, I know I was having to take time off to, you know, debate quitting. And it was important for me, but I didn't have a good block where I just did where I trained like a runner, where I just did many hours of low intensity, long runs, like things like that. I didn't have that block this year. And so I'm very aware of that. And we're doing what we can with that, which means like getting as good as we can with the time we're given, but also making my strengths really strong so I can win workouts, because that's really valuable too. But for this next year, and with, how young I am and the time I have, I would love to be able to close that gap. And I do, Max and I both really think I can. It will just take me longer than it takes other people. I have asthma that blows. That makes it a little harder. But like, other than that, it's not like I'm not super heavy. I'm not super it's not like physiologically there's something really getting in the way of me being a good runner. I'm fast. If you give me a 200, that would be great. Give me a 200 of the games. I'll knock that. Give me a 40.
Oh, yeah.
But I do really believe I can get good at running. It will just take me longer, and I will have to have dedicated long, not like a 12-week cycle, like something much longer. So that's the only difficult part after the games and the second tour stop, is figuring out when to do that. Because obviously I have Rogue in my mind, which is October, but then there's also Copenhagen in December. So I'll have to maybe miss out on something that I would like, a competition I would like to do, to prioritize having a longer block where I can do that. Because then, you need, at least for me, I need like 4 weeks of CrossFit to get ready to, go to a comp and do high intensity stuff again. So that's kind of the only thing that might have to be sacrificed, is like an off-season comp instead of, or losing an off-season comp, so I can do that longer aerobic building block that I really want to do.
Nice. Yeah.
In an off season, what is the one thing that would make you really excited to do for yourself outside of fitness?
Outside of it. You know what I have gotten so into over the past year, and Manny and I both, we were going to do a pickleball tournament last weekend, and we decided not to last minute because we were gone the whole month of May and haven't played very much. But we're big pickleball people these days, like peak retired Florida couple. But no, we've gotten super into it. And there's a ton of courts where the track is, that's like 10 minutes from our house. And we play a lot, as much as I can with games training, once a week. But no, I love pickleball. We've gotten so into it, and we debated doing a tournament last weekend. 2 of my friends did, but I'd been gone the whole month of May. We hadn't played very much. We were like, we don't want to get just mollywopped. But I would love to do, actually, I was like, because we're both too competitive too, where I'm like, this is fun. If I'm going to do a tournament, we're going to do well. So I would love to do one of those. My parents used to play tennis, and so I got them into it as well. And they're both very good. And so we love playing with them when they come and when they come and visit. But we're actually, after the game's, going to drive back to Prince Edward Island, because flying anywhere from Albany is awful. There's 2 flights a day. But anyways, we're going to
life.
Yeah, for real. You might be the only person that it's convenient for, honestly.
That's because this is one place I can drive to. But
exactly.
If you are looking for games flights, and this is to anybody who is, check Albany, Rochester, Syracuse, and Buffalo. Those are close enough areas that might give you some better options.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. But my parents are going to drive. It's 11-ish hours to the games, and then we'll drive back with them. And we've already been trying to figure out if there's any pickleball tournaments in Prince Edward Island or Eastern Canada we can go do right after the games with my parents or something. But that might be a little side quest.
I love it. So how do you and Manny play together? So I don't know if you can see it, but I have actually a custom Pickleball Weekly magazine. As a gift to my wife, I designed her on the cover of Pickleball Weekly, and just as a fun little gift to her. But we don't play great together. We play great together for 2 or 3 games, and then we start chirping at each other a little bit because we're both hyper competitive. And yeah, I almost, it's we kind of have to ease off the we can't be super competitive with each other. And are you and Manny the same way? Or
kind of. He compliments me really well in the way that he's pretty chill. But I mean, the only time we ever get annoyed is when we're playing bad, which like I'm sure is kind of, if we're playing very good people and they're just beating us, like it's fine. Like when we play pickleball, it's almost, I always say this, I'm like, I don't care if I lose. I just don't want to play like crap. Like if I'm making stupid mistakes and hitting like dumb shots, like if I can't hit a backhand to save my life, I am going to like snap my paddle in half. But like if we're playing well and we're just getting beat, it's fine. Like, that's fine. It's fine. I promise. But
I could see it's fine, but it's not really fine.
It's fine. But no, the only time that we have ever run into trouble is when we're both playing like crap, and then we get really annoyed at ourselves. But then we kind of like, it builds off of it just turns into this like snowball of being annoyed at ourselves. Like I very rarely get annoyed at him, and he very rarely gets annoyed at me. But if we're both mad at ourselves, then nobody's helping anybody. So we have kind of a rule that we try to maintain, that like if one person's like pretty down bad, like they're like, come on, Manny, like just like super playing like crap, whatever, like annoyed, the other person, even if they're annoyed, has to be like, okay, come on, like say something encouraging to try to get them back. And we try to, even if one person is annoyed, the one who's the most annoyed, like you have to like balance it a bit. So we try, but we've definitely, people are typically impressed. Like when we play with, there's a club that's also close by that we'll go to sometimes, and people there are always impressed that we can play together. And we're always like, like it's touch and go, but no, we manage.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Wait, so you and your wife play too?
We do. Yeah. So interestingly,
awesome.
when everything kind of shut down for COVID, one of the few things that stayed open, and I don't know how this worked out, but like the retirement age people's lobbyist group lobbied to keep all this certain stretch of pickleball courts in Santa Cruz open for some reason. And so that was like the one activity we could go do. And so like all of our friends got into it. And so we started playing then. And like, yeah, so there's plenty of options around here too, just because it's sunny, 99% of the year. So we'll definitely play, and it gets pretty intense pretty quick because we also have some friends that we'll play with that are also pretty good too. So like we get this like pretty decent games and rotations going, and it's intense.
We have a group of friends who we'll play with too. And one of my friends, he used to play baseball, and he's very good. And he was the one who taught me how to play, and his girlfriend too. We kind of learned at the same time, but he was much better than us. And so his way of teaching us, I have a really funny video I'll have to send you after, actually. He loves to hit people. Like the way he wins points, he hits so hard that I'm sure if you could move your body out of the way, it would go out. But instead, it just gets beamed at you. I'm sorry, I can't teleport out of the way. But anyways, the way he used to teach us, he says you're welcome now, obviously, but anytime I would like pop a ball up, which was all the time when you're first learning, he would smoke it at us. And he once took a video, like he's very athletic, it's really obnoxious. He's holding his phone, paddle in one hand, phone in the other, and he has a video, and he made a montage of it, of me popping a ball up and him hitting me. And you can hear me go, no, ow, for like, just like 10 videos in a row, me going, ow, ow. And you can hear when I start to like realize I've done something wrong, and I go, no, and I'm running away. And he's like fully like hitting me while filming. It was so annoying. I was like, how? And he's playing 1v2. Like it's me, his girlfriend, who's one of my best friends, against him, and he's like filming and hitting us. I was like, this is the most annoying thing I've ever seen. But it did help, and now him and I are like, we play really good games together because he's very good. And he's always like, you're welcome, and I'm like, thanks, pal. Like it's pretty funny.
Maybe not your TG style, but it helped still.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I Lauren, I don't know if you have much left, but I kind of wanted to close on circling back to just the journey so far, because we have said this a few times on the show. But if you're unfamiliar, please go check out the Barbin article, Morning Chocolate article, because the path that you have taken to finally getting to the level that you're at and getting to call yourself a games athlete should not be overlooked. And I'm gonna read this off real quick. Missed by one spot in 2018. 2019, you make it inside the top 20. They cut down to only 10 go to the game. So you missed a spot there. Following year, you qualify, but those are the COVID games. The teenage divisions were ultimately nixed that year. 2021, you miss out by a spot. 2022, there's a submission error. 23, 24, miss out by a spot. That, like, I can't overstate it. Like, that would break most people. When you hear that now, having qualified, are you able to look at that differently? And if so, like, thinking about who you were throughout all of this, is there some perspective that you can provide maybe to, I don't know, some younger athletes that'll probably look at your journey and be inspired by that?
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy to look back on all those years because every year was like, they were so painful. Like they all sucked so much in their own way. Like in 2018, I remember it was the first like real loss I had felt. Like I hadn't remember telling somebody this like when I was like 16, like only a couple years after. I was like, I'd never lost a family member. I hadn't lost anybody close to me. I hadn't really gone. I'd had some crappy coaches. I'd like gone through some stuff, but I hadn't really like I hadn't had anything that I'd given my everything to and really wanted and then just like failed. Like it just nothing of that weight. And so that was the first time that I'd really felt that. And that was really difficult. And then 2019 obviously sucked too. Every year just kind of sucked in its own way, but every year taught me something. And I've always struggled with the very like, I don't want to say corny because it is effective, but the very like typical growth mindset, positive kind of like self-talk, like the things that you see on Instagram and it's like, you can turn it into a positive and all of these things that are true, but I always struggled to buy into them. And so it's not like I can just like spit some recycled, like find the silver lining and turn it into a positive and, you know, like, which are all, it's funny. I go through this battle all the time. They're all true. They're all real things, but unless you can buy into them, they're useless. And so it was always difficult for me to find the right kind of mantra to get me through or to find what my reason for it was. Cause I'm also not somebody who can just be like, oh, well, everything happens for a reason. It's just my journey. I was like, that sounds like a load of crap to me. Like truth be told. So it was every year. I think what got me through was finding what spoke to me through that year. Like what I felt like I could take from it. Why I felt like it happened. Because sometimes life just sucks. Like sometimes it just kicks you and there's not really a huge reason for it, you know? And that's just good. Like life's not fair. You don't always get what you deserve. Like there's just like hard things I've had to come to terms with. But at the same time, it's made me a better person. It's made me a more well-rounded person. It's made me learn how to like have an identity outside of just CrossFit, which I know a lot of younger athletes have struggled with, you know, going into the adult division when you're already pretty good at it. And it's like, wait, who am I outside of this thing? What do I want to do after this? Like all of those difficult questions that when you're successful young, you don't always have to have an answer to right away. So for me, it was finding what in that year kind of like spoke to me and what I could take from it that wasn't just like the cookie cutter, like, oh, it happened for a reason or like make it a positive, like you got to find it within yourself. And I think that's like made me wiser and a more emotionally intelligent person. But it also, I do just think intrinsically within me, there's always been like just this knowledge that like, that's not what I was meant. Like I am meant to do this and it is not meant to end like that. And so with all of those like positive affirmations and mantras I found aside, sorry, I just got a pop-up. That was super random. But with all of those like mantras and all of those nice kind of sugar-coated things aside, like I have always have had this like gut feeling that it was like, no, it's not meant to end like this. There is still so far for me to go. I am still so young and like I am capable of so much because it was always just like in 2019, I injured my elbow and I couldn't do any upper body things for like 5 months. So that year I was like, well, you didn't even get to train upper body for 5 months. And then 2020, it was like, you came second to Emma Carey, who was like a stud already as an individual at 16. And it was like, they just got canceled. Like, you're right there. The next year I was 17. I missed my high school prom to almost qualify for the games. I missed it by one spot. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think I was going to be this good yet. Like every year there has still been evidence that like, no, you can be something so great. Like you just have to hang on. And I really try to lean into that. And I'm really lucky and grateful that I have like my dad. Oh my God, nobody thinks I am like he believes in me more than, he thinks I am like the most special. Like he's like, you're going to be so amazing. And so like having people like that, oh my God, he calls me inevitable. That's what he's called me forever. Like Thanos, he's like, you're just inevitable. It's just going to happen. Like you just as a person.
I just got chills.
Oh, no, he's like, he has such a way with words. But anyway, so having people like that in my corner for all of those years too is so helpful, because he's a university professor and he told me not to go to school because it was going to be a waste of money and time for me when I was going to be able to do this. And he also, it's not like they were like, hockey dads, like sideline coaching, being like, no, you have to be a professional athlete. He was just like, no, you don't have, like, I felt like I had to go to school so that I would be an intelligent person who wasn't, an idiot. So I started a degree in English literature. And he was always like, you don't have to, like, you don't need, I promise you're not going to be an idiot. And like, you can be really good at this. And he was always, the person who had just like so much belief. And obviously my mom did too. My coach is, when I was, younger, my coach now. So having people who also had that like gut feeling that like, no, you're not, this is not what you are cut out to do. Like that's not how it's going to end. You're made for so much more, was so valuable. So yeah, all of that together has kind of kept me going up until this point.
Yeah. Well, Anika, for all the people who maybe don't have the buy-in to the cookie cutter inspirational quotes, I hope and I know that people will get buy-in from hearing your story and, the determination to keep going. And whether you know it yet or not, you're going to inspire so many people to stay the course, even through all of the adversity that you and they face.
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah. That would also be cool.
Yeah, and every time you like, at least at this point, every time you step on the competition floor, I feel like you're proving all those people that believed in you right. Not that you needed to, or that they required that, or that their belief demanded that, but I think who you are as a person now definitely stands as proof and as a testament to that. So it's something to be proud of, and I hope you can give yourself space to be proud of that. So
yeah, for sure. But thank you.
Well, Anikha, we always appreciate talking to you, whether it's here or in person, and we look forward to seeing you on the competition floor the rest of the season throughout the games. Hopefully, World Fitness Project in Mesa, and man, like you said, you're inevitable. So we're excited to see that.
Hell yeah!
Love talking to you guys. Thank you so much.
Big thanks to Anikha Greer, and super happy that she's going to be able to compete in Albany at the 2025 CrossFit Games. Just one of my favorite people in the space. Just a good kid,
She's, and that sense of relief of like, you go through her history. We've talked about it at length. We've covered it every year pretty much, as she's missed it by the narrowest of margins, 7 times now? The catharsis, I bet, of finally just like being able to do that is amazing.
That's awesome. Good for her. Looking forward to seeing her compete at the CrossFit Games. Before we get to PRs and no reps, do we have community support?
We do. So this one is near and dear to my heart and my community in Santa Cruz. So one of the trainers, good friend, a kind of pillar in our West Fitness community, Andrew Seat, was in a motorcycle accident this past week. So an inattentive driver failed to see him and just turned into and hit him while he was riding down the road, like maybe 400 meters from the gym, probably a quarter mile or so from the gym. Shattered his knee, broken pelvis, broken foot, and he's since basically been going through pelvis surgery. He had knee surgery earlier this week. I'm not entirely sure what the plan is on the foot, but he's been through multiple surgeries in the last week or so since the accident. Thankfully, spine, brain, that's all good to go, and that wasn't severely injured, but has a very long road to recovery ahead of him with the broken pelvis and the shattered knee. And he is a pretty integral part of our community. He was someone that stepped up when we started talking about the 24-hour row for the Rogue Challenge. If you remember, we did that. Like, it was me, Andrew, another member from our community, Diego. Like, he's just one of those guys that always shows up, always like is ready to show up for you and other people. I believe it was a birthday party a year ago. He basically out of the blue showed up. He, kind of an impromptu birthday party for my wife, and he came in and he baked her a bunch of like baked goods, just completely out of the blue. Like, hey, didn't ask him to, didn't do it. He just wanted to go above and beyond to do something nice for him. That's the kind of dude he is. So, we've set up a meal train and donation thing for him and kind of his road to recovery as he kind of makes his way back. If you go to mealtrain.com, you can search for Andrew Seat. That's Andrew, ANDREWSEAT. Seat like what you sit on, and it should say Meal Train for Andrew Seat, and it's based in Santa Cruz. So if you want the full URL, it's mealtrain.com/trains/KQY8GR, and it's a way to kind of donate like DoorDash gift cards, stuff like that, so for him to eat because he'll be immobile for a long time, or just donate some money to help in his recovery for this because he's had to go through some serious major surgeries. He actually had to get transported over the hill to Santa Clara because of they're the higher trauma center. So kind of rocked our community a little bit. And we're trying to kind of rally around him for sure. So
good on you. And I hope he's doing all right. So,
yep.
Okay.
He is on the mend for sure.
Thanks for sharing that. And if there's anything out there that anybody wants us to get the word out on, feel free to send it to us via our Talking Elite Fitness Instagram account, either our personal Instagram accounts. Please share as many details as you possibly can, because we just like to get the word out and send people to the right spot. PR's no reps. Start with the no reps because we always like to end on a positive. Who's got a no rep?
I got one.
All right.
Okay, I don't have one.
I'm going to no rep weird behavior around babies or misnaming people.
Misnaming.
Wait, what do you mean?
So I was at a local establishment with my son. I've made it a multiple times a week kind of habit of taking him to a new location, whether it's a business or a store or whatever, just to kind of new sights, new sounds, experience him, get him out and about, get in the habit of taking him along with us when we do stuff. And we were at this place, and this woman, it was actually a very sweet exchange in the beginning. This older woman and her daughter come up and go, "Oh my gosh, such a cute baby boy. Like, is it all right if I say hi?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." She goes, "Hi," and immediately starts grabbing and rubbing his feet.
No.
What?
And I was like, and she's like, "How you doing, little Chess?" And I'm like, and the daughter kind of gave me a look like, "Sorry, that's a lot." I'm like, and the daughter goes, "Oh, what's his name? What's his name?" And I'm like, "Oh, his name's Miles." And she goes, "Oh," and the lady goes, "Oh, Miles, that's a sweet name. I'm just calling him Chester." Ain't that right, little person? Ain't that right, little Chess? Probably late 60s.
Yeah. See, at that age, you don't give a what.
And
I'm only 51, and I can the amount of F's I have to give right now are way out the window. I can't even imagine what it's like at 60. You just don't.
And I was kind of like, she was being very sweet and kind and and gentle with him, but at the same time, she just kind of like dove in for the feet, and we started calling him Chester of all things. I realize he's what, Generation B now. Technically, it's 2025. Chester hasn't been a name since the 80s. Like,
really? Because I didn't know anybody named Chester growing up, unless it was paired with another word afterwards.
Yeah, it was not a good word.
No.
So I was kind of like, and I finally had to be like, well, I made a joke of it. I go, yeah, we named him Miles. Sadly, Chester didn't make the initial list. And the daughter kind of laughed and it was like, "All right, Mom, let's go." His name's Miles.
Come on.
Beautiful name, by the way. And I was like, "Yeah, thanks."
Wow.
I was just sitting there like, what happened? So,
okay.
Oh my God.
I'm a magnet for this kind of stuff. I
guess,
swear.
man.
You attract weirdos.
Lauren,
Don't tell my wife.
No rep.
I'm going to double down on that no rep. That's just weird.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that that's probably just in the no rep for life category, like using your speakerphone in public.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Not returning your shopping cart or talking in the movie theater like that. That's like a no.
Oh, that's the part of
or
like
your phone on speaker.
That's the worst one. Yeah,
public.
phone. God.
The unholy triumvirate of public no reps. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anybody, you want to go to PRs? I don't think I have either. I just did not put a lot of thought into this portion of the show. So
I have a PR and I'm I think I know the answer from you guys, but have you ever had a scalp massage?
I have.
No.
You need to experience this. It is life-changing.
Must not say bad jokes.
So how do I put this? Rory McKernan and I were in a day spa in Shanghai, China.
Ooh,
and
interesting. What?
And as part of the experience, they took us to this place and we got a scalp and inner ear massage.
Inner ear?
Oh yeah. Where they like
with their fingers or a Q-tip or what?
No. They have all these little instruments, and one of them is like literally like it's like it's almost like a Q-tip, but at the end of it is like a miniature like soft feather. And they basically take it and they like trace the inside of your ear and then like go into your inner ear and like man. So me and Roy are talking to each other through this entire process, right? We're like and Rory's like, I'm glad this isn't weird for you because it's not weird for me, like classic Rory.
I can totally hear him saying that.
And like these women that are quote unquote working on us, the scalp massage felt great. And if I'm being honest, the inner ear stuff at times was like, oh, this is actually kind of relaxing. I could see where there's like maybe an intrigue. And finally, as we're like cracking jokes, they roll us over to where we were once facing away from each other. And we're now laying on our sides, eye to eye.
That's awkward.
As these two women's put feather in our ears. And I look at Roy and I'm like, well, I guess this means we're family now.
Yeah. Or something else.
And yeah. So, so I have had a scalp massage.
Okay. You got a PR, Tommy?
I'm going to PR The Art of Dance.
Oh, God.
It started as a low rumble with Alex Kazan winning World Fitness Project and doing some, hip hop dance classes. Mm-hmm. And then I think is reaching a fever pitch after the performance that I saw at the Torium Pro with Tia and Khan and that whole crew there. Cause they had the full like haka and
that's the best
native dancers.
Awesome. I wish I was there.
And it looked like a blast.
Dude, the haka is the best, man. That'll get you fired up.
And Tia parlayed the energy from that dance and just wiped the floor with everybody. So I think if you're a dance studio in the neighborhood of a high level CrossFitter, get ready.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But yeah.
That's it. We'll end on the power of dance for today.
The power of dance.
Okay.
Sean's favorite.
Yes. So next week, we're coming to the end of the qualifying process. We have the NorCal Classic in good old Sacramento, California this coming weekend. Then the following weekend is the last chance qualifier. And then it is straight on to Albany, New York for the 2025 CrossFit Games. So we'll get to that next week. We'll recap the NorCal Classic. Didn't do much of a preview. Apologize for that, but had a lot to talk about and went way over time for this episode. So we apologize.
I'll say quickly, a lot of opportunity on the men's side for new people to make it.
Correct.
A lot of people who are in line for it either have a ticket or withdrew after, getting a ticket, Ty Jenkins being one of them. Very intriguing storylines and Alex Kazan's only shot.
Yes.
So,
besides last chance qualifier.
If she finishes high enough in the in-person.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Good point.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. For Lauren Khalil and Tommy Marquez. And please don't forget our sponsor, Thirdzy.com. Thirdzy and their Rest and Recovery Collagen. Thirdzy.com. TEF is the code. I'm Sean Woodland. Take care of each other. Be better. And we will talk to you guys next time.
1, 2, 3, go! Like a kiss at the start of a first date. If it's good, I don't want to wait.